Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm so happy to have you guys here. Today we have a really fun Dollar Tree DIY. We're going to make these two different projects for fall using items from the Dollar Tree. So we're first going to go over the supplies for the first thing that we're going to make. So the supplies for number one, which will be the turkey planter. We're going to use these different floral pieces in yellow, red, and green. Those will be our feathers. We're also going to use this large flower from the Dollar Tree and some different small coordinating flowers to fill in some spaces. Then we are going to be using some paint brushes. We'll also need some paint in two different colors and white, black, red, and yellow paint as well. One large craft stick, those will be the feet, a pair of scissors, and then we're also going to use one of these Dollar Tree embossing tools, a foam carvable pumpkin from the Dollar Tree, one of the bamboo spoons over in their kitchen section. We'll need a pencil or something to write with, and you'll need either the wood carving tools or a mini handsaw. The spoon's just a tad bit too long, and then we'll need some either sandpaper or coarse grit emery boards. Then you can use either some rice or some sand and a paper funnel and some hot glue. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is start painting our pumpkin. I actually ordered this pumpkin from dollartree.com online, and they're just the solid or the plain pumpkins. They don't have any of that plastic coating on it. And so we just pulled a stem off, and it did take 2 coats just because we were able to see through the acrylic paint. Even though it's a dark brown, it wasn't quite thick enough to do just 1 coat without seeing the white. So we're going to completely cover the pumpkin in the dark brown paint. We'll let it dry for about 10 minutes in between coats, and then we'll do the second coat. So as you can see, the first coat's dry and the second coat does a lot better finishing to cover that whole pumpkin without any spots that you're able to see through. And don't throw away that stem, we'll use that later. So we're going to let that dry. While it's drying, we're going to plan out the face for our turkey. So I'm just going to take a pencil and draw on 2 little circles for eyes, and then a triangle for the beak, and a teardrop for the little piece that is on the side. I can't remember what that's called. And then we're also going to draw a few feathers at the top of his head. That's optional. And then a little bit of wavy pieces, just because we're going to make the top of the head a little bit lighter color and the bottom this dark brown. Just taking our paintbrush, we're just going to paint the bottom of the spoon dark brown, and we'll also paint the sides and the back. And I only did 1 coat of paint on the spoon. You don't have to quite paint all the way down on the spoon. We're going to cut that bottom portion off because it's about 2 inches too long. So now we're going to paint the top of the turkey's head a lighter color brown. If you don't have a different color brown, just add a little bit of white to your dark brown paint so you can lighten it up, or you could just leave the whole thing dark brown. It's really up to you. And it's okay if you can see your pencil marks through the paint. It kind of helps you know where to add the eyes and the beak. So I'm going to, of course, do the back and the sides of the spoon as well. We'll let that dry just for a few minutes, and then we're going to go in with the dark brown paint and do those little squiggly lines. And then make sure you do the sides and the back as well. You're going to be able to see those. And then we'll do the eyes in some black paint. You could even use a paint marker or a Sharpie if you like. We'll do the feathers in the dark brown. And then using some dark yellow paint, we're going to do the beak. And then some red paint for this here. I'm using some dark red. It was called Tuscan Red. Now we're going to take our embossing tool and just add 2 little dots on the beak for the nose. And then we'll add some little white dots to the eyes. And now we'll take just a little bit of the light brown paint and we're going to go over this just to add some more detail down the spoon and around the feathers and things, just to help highlight them and make it a little bit easier to see. So here's the neck and the head all finished. You can see we did all the way around the spoon here. We'll add a few more details of highlights to the back. This is optional. You don't have to do this part. I just thought it looked a little bit nicer with some lighter colors. And we'll let that dry. So now we're going to work on the feet. We have this extra large craft stick. We're just going to cut it in half and then we'll line them up together and then cut off any excess to make sure they're the same size. And now we're just taking some dark yellow paint and we're going to paint both of these, and we'll do the edges of the stick as well. You don't have to do the bottom if you don't like. You can just do the one side. So I'm just taking a razor blade to score the bottom of this spoon just to make it a little bit easier with my wood tools to be able to cut down into it enough so that I can snap the bottom of the spoon off. Like I said, it's just a tad bit too long and it doesn't look right on the size of the foam pumpkins at Dollar Tree sells. So I just took these wood carving tools and a hammer and I just put it in that little groove and used the hammer on the end of it to kind of chisel through the end a little bit. You only have to go about halfway through and then you can just snap it right off and it comes off pretty easily. So then you can do this part. You don't have to. It's really not necessary. But I just took an emery board and then I sand the bottom of it just to make it a little bit smoother. I didn't want it poking through the pumpkin when I stick it inside of the pumpkin. Now, if you want to glue it to the outside of the pumpkin and do yours a little bit different, you definitely want to sand the bottom and then paint that. But this part is optional. So now just taking a razor blade or a craft knife, we're just going to cut out a little rectangle here, and this is going to be to slide the spoon down in. So what you want to do is you just want to cut little bits at a time until you get it large enough to slide that spoon down in. You don't want to make it too big because then it's not going to help it to hold it up. So we're just going to slide this down into the pumpkin, and then it makes it kind of top heavy, so it wants to tip over. I didn't realize this at first, which is where the sand or the rice comes in. So if you want to, before you actually glue the head into the pumpkin, you could just fill it with the rice or the sand. I put about 1 cup of rice in mine. What you could do is do that now before you use the hot glue to glue the neck into place. So I did just glue that neck into place around the edges there. Then I realized it wasn't going to stand. I just cut a small hole in the top, and then I made a paper funnel and I filled it with the rice on the top. But again, you could just fill it where the head goes. You could fill it with the rice or the sand before you do this part, so that way you don't have to do this portion of the directions. But these crafts, I just kind of make them up as I go along, so I didn't realize it was going to tip over. So then I just filled it with a little bit of glue. I took the stem piece that we took off earlier and cut a small portion off, and then fill in the hole and put a little bit more hot glue right there. And we won't see this when it's completely done. So now taking that embossing tool, you just want to poke holes where you want your flowers to go that are our feathers. And then you want to just put a little bit of hot glue on the stem. That'll help hold it in place. And then start putting in your flowers. So we're going to do this so that they're kind of like staggered. So they go from like short to long, like you would expect a turkey's feathers to look. And I just work from either side and work towards the center. And you want to put them about 1/2 inch to 1 inch apart. You don't want them so far apart that it doesn't look like it's full, but you don't want them so close together that you need to use like 100 of them to fill it in. So this is our second row. The second row, we just used 5 across the back here. And here's what it looks like so far. And now we're going to take that extra large flower from Dollar Tree. I pulled the clip off of the back of it. Just add some hot glue to the top of the pumpkin and then set that right in the back and lean it up against the feathers. And that helps fill it in. It looks like some more feathers there. So it's still a little bit sparse in the back. So I had these small orange flowers and I just put a little bit of hot glue on them after I pulled them off the stem. I used the embossing tool to put a little hole in the pumpkin and then slide the end of that stem right into the back there to help fill in these spaces so that you don't see the stems to the larger flowers so much. And then right here you could see where we attached the head. So we're going to fill that in with the flowers as well. And we just did 3 across the front. And you do want to put a little dot of hot glue on the back of these flowers before you poke them in to help them stay. And now we're just going to glue on the feet. This part's also optional. If you don't want to make feet, you don't have to. I just did 3 lines of hot glue and then set the pumpkin on top so you can see the feet. And that is it. So this is the whole thing put together. I just love how this turned out. I think this would make a really cute centerpiece on a table or just sitting over in the corner somewhere on the mantle. I just thought that was so cute. I really love the way it turned out. And I feel like sometimes Thanksgiving is the forgotten holiday. It seems like we go right from Halloween to Christmas. Okay, so now we'll go over our supplies for our second craft, which is super easy to do. We're going to be using these LED candles from the Dollar Tree to make these fall candles. We'll need some of the candles, we'll need some napkins and a pair of scissors. You'll also need some of these little sunflowers from Dollar Tree, some of the twine in brown, and then one of the silicone facial applicators or a paintbrush, and then a hair dryer. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to pull apart the layers of this napkin. You could also do this with tissue paper. So you just want to pull apart those layers. You just have one layer of the tissue left behind. And then you could either use a razor blade or scissors. I'm going to use scissors to cut around the design because it's too big for the candle. So I'm just going to cut it out, and I will still have to trim this when we're completely done. So I already have one piece on the candle. So these candles from Dollar Tree, they're dipped in wax, which is awesome. They make them look really realistic. So what we're going to do is hold this napkin on it, and we'll hold a hair dryer in front of it on hot until you can start to see the wax melt and coming through the napkin or tissue paper. As you can see, it gets wet and shiny. You can see it really easily. And then smooth that wax over the top of your napkin. And then you'll keep working in portions of the candle all the way around and smoothing out that wax on the top so that the napkin or tissue paper will eventually be completely attached to the candle. And you can do this with real candles also. Just keep working your way all the way around, and then pay really close attention to the edges to make sure you have those down really well. And just take your time working in small sections. Once I have all of the sections complete, I trimmed the napkin at the top with a pair of scissors, and then I did go back over it with the hair dryer and make sure that I had that end completely down and stuck to the candle. These are fun to make. You can make them for all different holidays. You can make them for birthdays. They make really good gifts for people. They look really cute in a gift basket as well. And here it is all attached to the candle. Like I said, I did 2 pieces. And now we're going to take some twine. We're just going to wrap it around 3 fingers about 7 or 8 times. And then I just cut off the excess. And then I took one of the small sunflowers that has a piece of wire attached to it. So I just put the sunflower in the middle of the bow, wrap the wire around it to bunch up the center there, and then fluff up your loops to the bow. And then you have this cute little bow to attach to your candle. So then I took some more twine and I wrap it around the candle about 4 times. I cut off the excess and then just tie the 2 ends together. And it's okay if you have a little bit of excess, you'll need that. And then we use some hot glue to attach the bow. And then I have these little laser cutouts from Dollar Tree, these leaves, and I'm going to attach one to my candle. So that was an optional supply if you have them on hand. If not, you can just leave that part out. And here's what they look like all finished. They're super easy to make, and I think they make a great addition to every holiday. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed these videos, please check out some of our other fall videos that we've already posted for this year. We post those every Thursday, and every Friday we post a video showing what is new for the week at several different Dollar Trees in our area. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And here are those other videos from our channel you might also enjoy. Have a great night, everyone.